my name is Representative Pam Powers Hanley, and I represent LD9 in Tucson in the Arizona House. Well, you know how the old saying goes, you can't spell crazy without AZ. Well, the legislature approved that today. We only had a couple of bills on the agenda, and luckily I didn't know what was going to happen when I walked in the door today, or I might not have slept last night. So we've had three giant debates that lasted almost the entire day. And in fact, we didn't get lunch today because of this. And so two of the most contentious bills were basically manipulating what is allowed to be said in school or in the workplace. And so if you've been in Arizona for more than 11 years, you might remember 2010. 2010 was the year that the legislature passed SB 1070, the anti-immigrant bill, and they also passed HB 2281, which was the bill that went after the Mexican-American studies. And so the amendments that went today on SB 1532 were very reminiscent of the HB 2281 from 11 years ago, which was signed into law by Governor Jan Brewer on May 11, 2010. So almost exactly 11 years ago from today, which happens to be Cinco de Mayo. And so basically what 1532 does, there's amendment onto this particular bill. It's a non-germane striker, and so both of these that we heard today, the Democrats tried to fight it on procedural measures because they're non-germane. These particular anti-free speech amendments are not germane to the base bill. And so basically 1532 goes after teachers, pretty much. And it goes after critical race theory, and it is very reminiscent of the anti-MAS bill. And so it prohibits a school district, charter school, or state agency from requiring a teacher, employee, or a visitor to discuss controversial issues of public policy or social affairs that are not essential to coursework. It goes on to say that if the teacher does these things, if he or she presents a controversial topic, they can't give deference to one side or the other, right? For example, if the controversial topic happens to be climate change, they have to present the science on climate change the same as the climate deniers. Or if the topic happens to be slavery, they have to say what slavery actually was, and then say, it wasn't so bad for some of them. They didn't have to make any decisions because they were slaves, and I heard it wasn't so bad. They got to work outside, and so basically the idea that they're going to either not present controversial topics in school or they're going to give a both sides now kind of a thing is just a bad idea. I reminded them when this came up that about 2281 and reminded them that the state of Arizona lost in court on that. And so why would we pass another bill on a topic that we lost in court on before? So the Democrats fought hard on 1532. The Republicans talked about how non-racist they were on 1532 and also on 1074, which is kind of the same law, but it hamstrings government rather than schools. And so basically we heard for like 4 hours about they're not racist, but by the way, you can't talk about racism or sexism or provide any sort of training on that in school or in the workplace if you're in a government. So after that, and that was that took us to about 2:30 or something like that. The real surprise of the day was when Representative Michelle Udall popped up and motioned to suspend the rules in order to bypass or do first and second and third read for an SCR that basically said that it would send to the voters the question of whether or not DACA students, that would be Dreamers, could have in-state tuition. And so this was really amazing because we have 29 Democrats and 31 Republicans. Michelle Udall is a Republican. She obviously had Joel John on her side, and so when she did the motion, it was 29 Democrats and those two brave Republicans who voted to bring this DACA tuition bill to the voters, up for a vote in the House and to the voters. It had already passed the Senate, like more than a month ago. Michelle Udall and Joel John were taken back to the woodshed, to the Speaker's office to have a conversation. They did not change their position. So at the end of the day today, after voting these racist laws into law and saying that they weren't racist, the Republicans were not willing to vote on sending to the voters in-state tuition for DACA students. You can't make this stuff up.